the sun just popped out. It was actually super gloomy, but I guess this is nice. Let's see if we can get some nice different types of scenery. Get some of those shots that I missed last time when I forgot to hit the record button. Trying to think too. If you guys remember the other week, basically the school, like a public school, they contacted me about potentially volunteering to teach those kids about martial arts and stuff like that. So I actually have to do that this week. Just trying to think, I have my plan and so forth, what to do, because for the most part, for a younger audience, they usually want the instant gratification stuff. So mostly things like forums and stuff like that. Most people, they wouldn't have the attention span for it. So I think I know what to do in general. It'd be kind of interesting just to teach kids in general. Like this is, again, it's not a martial arts school, it's just a general public school. They're asking if I could do it like for a few more days, but I don't think I had the time to actually volunteer like that, unfortunately. And one of the funny things I was thinking, how do you keep those kids engaged? I'll let them submit the teacher or something like that. I was like, nah, they probably wouldn't be into that. I started off by reading this today about how Amazon is opening the headquarters in Vancouver and how it's going to bring about 3,000 jobs. Actually, I thought this was already announced already, where they were going to take over the old Canada Post building. I walked by it before that time, if you guys remember too. But apparently they're going to build, I think, more structure on top of the old building, so they're not going to demolish it or anything like that. That makes me curious to see how more tech savvy it makes it around here. Although it did make me wonder though about the drones, because I remember like in the US you had all those companies saying, for example, they want more restrictions for like say a recreational person. So it makes me wonder if they're going to start doing things like say drone delivery here in Vancouver. Is that going to be more restrictive for the recreational flyer? Then again, still waiting for the final regulations, whatever that is. I think I really see that later, what that thing called. Was it a worm? And apparently this was a big, huge deal. Something going, I guess, viral on the internet. It had to do with a person wearing a Chinese dress, which was very traditional, and people thought she was being racist for it. Like this article, it says, prom dress prompts cultural inappropriation role. So as you can see with the group photos and all afterwards when she posted it, people criticized her. Like this one person here says, was the theme of the prom casual racism? And then she tried to defend herself saying, it's just a dress. Like she didn't really mean anything by it. This one guy was really vocal about it. It says, my culture is not your goddamn prom dress. And he was saying basically the dress was made for Chinese women to clean the house and to do other domestic chores with. It was then altered and embroidered as a beautiful form-fitting outfit to wear publicly, which Chinese women were not allowed to do during the times of extreme patriarchal oppression. In a time where Asian women were silenced, they were able to create not only a piece of art, but a symbol of activism. This piece of clothing embraced femininity, confidence, and gender equality through its beautiful, eye-catching appearance. I don't really see that as racism, just with the context of it, because I think context is important. I mean, at most, you can say the person was ignorant about it, but racist? I don't know, it's a little going too far there. I mean, if she wore that dress and then had like tags saying in a like quote stereotypical broken English way, like me, pretty dress, wear like that, whatever, like that type of thing, then that's different. But I don't know, to me, I don't know how you can call this racism. The only other thing I can remember before like that would be closer to quote racism, like it's very, I guess, in an offensive way, in an insensitive way. It's kind of like the only one I can remember basically like in the US, they have something like that Rosie O'Donnell person make like those ching chang chong or something like that. Like that I can see why people would find offensive and racist just because of the way the person did it. But in this case, I honestly can't see how that is racism, the way the person did it. You can educate them, say they're ignorant about it, but to call that racism, that's just making a big deal in my opinion about something that's overblown in my opinion. There's actual legitimate things like racism and stuff like that that you should be going after if you're a person like that who's doing that to speak up for the rights of like minorities and stuff like that. I mean, I go through them every day, but stuff like this, like even I would say I can't see how this in particular is racism in that sense of someone being in an extreme hate group, for example, demoralizing like people. I just can't see it in this case. One tree color completely changed, but another one blooms. And then I read this report. At first I thought it was some kind of official agency just because of the name. It says I-Team, drones flying dangerously close to planes in NC airspace. I think I-Team is just the name of the news report, kind of their segment. Reports from the Federal Aviation Administration shows an alarming rise of drone sightings from pilots of both airplanes and helicopters who fear an imminent danger of future collisions. An ABC 11 I-Team investigation reviewed 1,699 such reports filed by pilots across the country, including 38 in North Carolina airspace. And then they give an example. It says here, David Reed, a commercial pilot with more than 30 years experience, told the I-Team his own near miss with the drone was, quote, not the adrenaline I was looking for. So they show this little segment where they interviewed him about it, and apparently he was going in for a clear landing. Okay, I'm gonna go in. And then all of a sudden he says when he's going down, he notices this small, I guess, drone, hovering there, not going very fast, but still he's emphasizing how it's very nerve-wracking to think that there's something there, you could collide into it, and then giving examples again where when an airplane's going that fast, for example, I think he said like 160 miles an hour or something like that, it's really fast. He was saying even like a simple bird, for example, could take the airplane down, so that's the fear with the drones. So for the most part, I think this is more of an educational piece telling people these things are deadly, they're not toys, which is kind of what we talked about yesterday. It says, quote, people get these drones, they think of it as toys that they can do what they want with it, says James Pierce with NCDOT Aviation. The technology is so new, it's not ingrained in people yet, and it's so available. Anybody can go and get a drone, so you think it's so easy to get, it can't be dangerous at all. It does say that company though, it says it's spending more than $10,000 on advertising campaigns specifically on social media to help get the message out about drone safety and drone laws. The point is that we give people easy to follow steps at Pierce. As long as you're doing these things, you're being safe and you're being legal with your flight. Overall, I think that's really cool. Basically spending kind of money and time to help educate people who would, quote, fly it dangerously, like they think it's a toy. At the same time, in many cases, like it's trying to find the balance. It is like a toy, like in some cases. I don't know, I'm just speaking for myself too. Like I think people neglect the point as well in terms of like flying around, there's no danger. For a person like me, like that I bought a drone, I bought it just for videos and photos, and I know it's expensive, and there's one part of your mindset where you want to be safe and so forth, not just from a safety perspective for other people, but you don't want to crash this thing because it's so expensive. I think people neglect to say that as well. In terms of like say training people, teaching them about safety, like one thing for example in this specific report, like if I'm not mistaken, that pilot guy said it was a pretty small drone. Like his case was still, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a bird, if you're going that fast, like with a jet crashing into it, it'll cause disaster. But when this little news report, every time he mentioned stuff like that, he showed a picture like of this drone, like that news report, this huge, humongous drone. Like, is that supposed to like scare people or something? Like this is what average people are buying in terms of off the shelf in the retail stores? Like, I don't, to me it's counterproductive, because if you're trying to teach people, just like what I demonstrated the other day, this instills fear in the general public, and basically they're not gonna teach people about safety, they're just gonna say, this is dangerous, get out of here. And then what's gonna happen is people go incognito in terms of flying, there's no one to educate them, they're scared to go to the regular public, so they can't get the training or help that they actually need because they feel so isolated. So in terms of trying to scare people like that, I don't think that's the right way to go. Educate them in a good way, and at the same time educate the general public as well to embrace people like that. If you don't think they know the regulations, just talk to them like, oh, did you read this and this and this? If he's like a bratty kid going, screw you, I bought this, I fly it, my life or whatever, then that's different. But for the most part, people just need help in terms of a little assistance. Like for me, there virtually was no help. It was either, for example, pay, $3,000, $5,000 to learn, quote, aviation stuff that doesn't really benefit me, like when I'm trying to learn how to fly, like in general. Like you should just offer people places to fly and stuff like that. Actually, one funny example to just show how I guess broken the regulations are here. Let's pretend I wanted to teach people how to fly a drone just from my experience, like what they should look out for, how to be safe. I'm not talking about like as a school, just as a regular person. Technically, me flying a drone and teach them will count as, quote, you know, education and research, and technically it's illegal for me to do that. That's how silly it is. I mean, you can teach people about computers and stuff like that, no problem, right? Whereas you can't with this. But again, the more education, the better. I just hope people realize it's not just the flyers that need to be educated, it's the regular people as well, just based on things like the hysteria. So kind of everyone needs to learn a little bit about the new tech and all that for the thing to coexist in a peaceful way. That's what you want to say. He remembers me. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing? You're leading me to your master? Okay, lead me to your master, please. gave me some really nice close-ups. Oh, what a bully. I thought you stole it from the babies. Whoa. Whoa. My babies, oh my goodness. Oh no. Oh. Oh. That's territorial. It's kind of good timing for the person to offer the bread there, because they got a really good close-up. Alright, see you guys later.